This was back before Google. Web pages were, for the most part, still very basic HTML and JavaScript. Hardly anyone used CSS. Only discussion boards and some banking sites had anything approaching mature front-end, back-end combinations. This is a real deep web story, not just one about illicit activities online. I was browsing random blogs, GeoCity sites and the like, just going from link to link. Eventually, I came upon an odd page. It appeared to be random thoughts from different people, but for the time, it was very well designed. The messages seemed to be cryptic in nature, like several people trying to pass secret notes. I started through the source, and hidden in the comments of a JavaScript were previous IP addresses. I gathered all of the IPs in a text file and began enumerating. Some were routers with banner messages I could telnet to, almost all at universities. Warning, this is a secure system at a university of blah blah blah. The default Cisco credentials from back in the day worked on most of them, but I didn't poke around. A few of the IPs were web servers with little to nothing on them, mostly APOC on Linux or some BSD, at least one IIS server I can recall. I finally came upon a web server with a huge directory of HTML files and TIFF images, with a few smaller subdirectories containing the same. NSLOOKUP returned no reverse records for the IP. A visual route traced it as far as Colorado. The HTML files appear to be records a psychologist or similar mental health professional would keep. The images were of faxes, apparently of both military and medical nature. As I browsed from subdirectory back to the parent, at the top was a new HTML file named something like 1hellothere.html. Oddly enough though, the timestamp was from right that very minute. I opened it, and in plain text was the message, "We see you." No quotes, all lowercase. About 15 seconds later, the server, it dropped.
Number 5.
I live in the country with 5 neighbours and we have a long driveway, but the road is still in sight from where we live. This information will be useful soon. So, I was 13 at the time and I woke up Christmas morning. The Christmas smell just excited me because I was hoping for a laptop. As soon as I unwrapped the box, I got so happy. But what I didn't know was that I was opening my death tool. As soon as we got the computer all set up, all I thought about was get on 4chan, get on 4chan. I did exactly what I wanted to do, and I immediately got on there and clicked into the chat room B, and I saw a link. I of course clicked on it thinking it was a picture, but it was a link on how to access the deep web. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was curious enough to follow these steps, and instead of using Tor, I used Freenet. Before I could access it, it left a note saying, "Browser discretion is advised." Being my normal self, I just overlooked it and I was on the deep web. I came across some disturbing things instantly that sent chills down my spine. Till I came across a tab. I didn't know that it was child pornography, so I soon clicked it and I saw photos of men doing disturbing things to kids. I saw men who had kids in different positions. The kids' faces weren't even blurred, so you could tell the kids looked visibly shaken. And looking as if they were 8 or 9, I immediately clicked out of it. And I just cleared my history and enjoyed the Christmas with my family. But then, it gets weird. I got onto my laptop and it left a message saying, "You've successfully completed your order." I was like, I didn't order anything. What the fuck's going on? Then I clicked on the order and it said I ordered some type of drug. It wasn't a normal drug either by the looks of things. It was a green, purple fluorescent looking drug. It didn't have a name, it only contained numbers. I did some research on the deep web after this, and it said not accessing the deep web right can have unnoticed weird results. I didn't actually realize at the time that a strange man had my address and my mum's credit card number because I accessed the deep web. Then I started getting weird messages from a guy. He messaged me by my email saying, "Thanks for letting me use your credit card, it came in handy." I flipped out and told a friend, and they rushed over to my house and helped me delete all the data on my computer and erase everything. I thought I was safe until the next day. The man got my phone number. My iPhone lit up, and I don't usually bother answering these types of calls, but they called multiple times. Then I get a FaceTime call from a number. I hid myself from the camera and put myself on mute. When it connected, it showed a man pleasuring himself. I was disgusted and ended the call. Then the number texted me saying, "Did you like that, Sophia?" I said, "Fuck off, you whore." Then I blocked the number. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. My mum and dad got an alert that their card had been used. I overheard them and I panicked like hell. I ripped the damn memory card out of my computer and cut it and flushed it. Then I got a text from a different guy. It's a photo message. He sends me a picture of the foreign weed that I had seen on the deep web. But the bag that was on the picture was of me. I thought to myself, how and who? I replied to him and told him to fuck off. This time, I waited for a reply though. He replies, "I want to come on you." I just blocked him out of fear. I tell the same friend about it, and she insisted we tell her uncle. We never did because of the consequences though, and he left me alone for about a month. But on February 2nd, 2014, I was at home by myself, and the same man texts me on my phone, but from a different number. He says, "I saw your post on Facebook, and I'm here." My status said "home alone" with a bunch of emojis, and he doesn't text back, so I feel as if he was messing with me. I cracked the blinds. No one would be able to see me because the windows are tinted. And there he is. He had a big trash bag and he's wearing gloves. He's tall as fuck, so I can't make out his face. From my crouching position, I can see he's really skinny though, and when I say skinny, this guy looks like he weighs about 7, maybe 8 stone. I crawl away from the window as silently as possible. Then he starts banging on the door. I get on my feet and run. I run to my dad's room and grabbed a gun. I load it as I saw him do on New Year's, and I grab my phone and run to my room. I lock my door and turn off the lights. But I didn't realize the front door was unlocked. He's in my house. I call 911 and tell them everything, and they tell me to stay on the phone. The man's laughing so hard, I start to cry. He says,
"Sophia, I know you're in there."
His voice is so deep and it sounds so evil. I have the gun loaded and my finger is on the trigger. I was ready to shoot this fucker in the face if need be. Then, the crazy man, he just walks away, and his footsteps turn into silence. And about a minute later, a fist goes flying through my window. It's him. I take one good look at him. He looks crazy. You can see it in his eyes. He has brown hair and his eyes are really dark. He has scars on his face. He also has this weird grin. And after about a second, I run out of my room as he starts to crawl through my window. The cops haven't arrived yet, and I get on my bike. I try my best to get to the main road, and I see the man running out of my house. I fly down the street. I'm scared. I don't know where to go or what to do at this point. I turn around, and the man, he was about 6'8", and he could run too. I tell you, there was no stopping this guy. My house is out of sight, and I hear sirens, but the man's gone. Just like that, he's gone. I get taken to the police station, and somehow they managed to find the man. I was at the police station with the cops and saw him get out of the car. He looks at me and grins the whole time the cops take him in. My parents finally arrive, and they press charges. The man gets 46 years to life in custody. Also, they did background checks on his name. His name was Eric Finesworth. He had stalked over 19 kids under the age of 18 and also raped 5. I'm thankful to be alive, and I'll never go browsing on the deep web ever again. But my question is, what did that freak want to do if he got a hold of me?
Number 4.
The story I'm about to tell you happened a few years ago, and after a few weeks, it came to a screeching halt. One day, a few years back, I found myself browsing what is known as the deep web, or the dark web some call it, because being an army ranger and having a huge attraction to wide varieties of firearms, a friend of mine told me to search the deep web, describing the multitudes of websites they have, showcasing high-grade military firearms all the way down to .22 caliber pistols that you can buy pretty much anywhere. I start searching and come upon things like rocket launchers, silenced .50 caliber Berettas, and even military-grade body armor, which I found weird because things like these are mostly military use only. Anyways, after browsing different weaponry websites, I decided to dig a little deeper, having researched exactly what this was and seeing the many different things the deep web holds. I come across a website which was known for snuff videos, which are basically POV murder clips of someone being murdered for the excitement of others. I don't find this all that exciting myself, but it's something that one just becomes curious about. After a while, a little chat box appears at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. "Hey there," the message read. I decided not to respond to this, because I got a real good impression on the creepy fucks that tend to stick around on these websites. Another message appears though. Ignoring would be a huge mistake on your part. Now, considering my background, I do not take kindly to threats, and as a wise person I know once said, if you want somebody to fuck off, you tell them to fuck off. You don't say, "nice sweater." So, I did just that. "Go fuck yourself," I responded. After a few minutes of silence, this chat box turns into what I thought was a picture at the time, but it turned out to be a live feed after seeing someone walk in front of the camera. "Hi, Nick." After staring at the screen, shocked and speechless for a few moments, the man says, "What, got nothing to say now? You sounded like a fighter just a few minutes ago." After realizing that he can see and hear everything from the microphone and camera on my laptop, I responded, "How do you know my name?" He laughs and responds, "I know everything about you," and starts describing pictures that were at that moment saved on my laptop, some consisting of my little sister, brother, mother, and father, etc. Still in shock and speechless about what is actually happening, he laughs once more. "I'll see you real soon, Nick," and the feed cuts. Now, I know all about keyboard warriors and common trolls on the internet, but this was different. I didn't expect him to actually go through with this, but I was wrong. Some days, I would come home to pictures of myself from the feed laying on the porch, and even had an incident where my neighbor told me that somebody was scouting around my house. After learning this, I started keeping my shotgun near me at all times while in the house. Things started to escalate at night, however. Some nights, I would hear random knocks on the windows, starting from the front of the house and working its way to the back in rapid succession, and even had a break-in one night while I was out with my friends. According to the police, the door in my carport leading into the far end of the house had been pried away from the frame, allowing full access into my house. Nothing was stolen, thankfully, but everything in my house was just thrown and trashed. The next morning, I had a security company come out and install cameras around my house that can be accessed from my iPhone at any time. Just a few days after doing this, it finally ended. One night though, I was sitting on my kitchen preparing food for myself. Then I hear... It was coming from the windows on the front of my house. There's a storm shutter attached on the outside though, so I just blew it off as the wind making the shutter tap the window. Not even 2 minutes later, I hear a loud bang. It comes from my front door, something I can only describe as a linebacker running full speed into the door. At this moment, all red flags pop up in my head. The laundry room, which has the circuit breaker to my house, is connected to the kitchen. I grab my shotgun, walk into the laundry room, and cut all the power to my house so everything is consumed in pitch darkness. I walk back into the kitchen and level the sight with my eye, and just wait until something or someone crosses its path. After a few minutes, it seems as whatever it was might have left, until I heard this person trying to pry open the carport door again. I creep over to the sunroom, which is connected to the door this guy's coming through, and wait. He manages to pry the door open and steps in. At this moment, my heart is jackhammering like a quarterback on prom night. I raise my weapon up and wait for him to take a few more steps for safe measure. After his fourth or fifth steps, I pump the shotgun to load a round into the chamber. He stops, dead in his tracks. I give him a few moments to see whether he's going to run or keep coming in. A few moments pass, and just when I think he's going to turn around and run out, he takes a step forward. I pull the trigger, and the sound of a cannon echoes throughout my house. He is blown a couple of feet back into the wall behind him, blood splattering across the wall. After watching him lay for a few moments without the slightest hint of life, I call the police. After questioning me, I give them the whole story. They tell me he's a felon with a rap sheet a mile long, including kidnapping and attempted rape. He also had a knife and duct tape in pockets of his hoodie. I cannot even imagine what he had planned for me if I wasn't armed that night.
Number 3.
I had heard little to nothing about the deep web prior to a couple of months ago. All I had heard was the size of the hidden information and the kinds of sites on there. I was kind of curious about all this stuff. I couldn't see with my regular browser, so I downloaded Tor. I had heard about a program called Tails, but I didn't think I needed that much protection because I wasn't going to be doing any illegal things on the deep web anyway. So I loaded up Tor and got onto the hidden wiki. I was lucky not to have stumbled across child porn, but I saw some other stuff that was quite unsettling. So, after clicking random links on the hidden wiki, I got to a site called Snuffocate. I had no idea what a snuff film was, nor had I ever wished to know. When I clicked the link, I was brought to a blank, white page with a little Bitcoin wallet on the top left of the screen. After about 5 seconds of being on this page, a small window popped up on my screen. I tried to close the window, but the mouse and the keyboard weren't working. I thought I had just installed some sort of virus, but then the video came into focus on the window. It showed a woman, probably in her mid-20s, with duct tape all around her. I was confused at first, but then my imagination of what would happen next went wild. I thought to myself,
please, people aren't that crazy. The police can easily track this down.
But then, a small, lean man with a ski mask on walked into the shot. He looked at the camera and gave a thumbs up and what looked like a smile from under the ski mask. He then laid the girl on her side, and a small chat box popped up. When I tried typing in it, it read, "Only administrators can chat." Then, a message popped up by the name of Agent.907. He said, "Kick her." Sure enough, the man in the video kicked her. He kicked her quite hard. Agent 907 replied, "Kick her harder. I paid a lot of money for this." Then it hit me. This is actually happening to somebody, and people pay to watch this. I went to unplug my computer, but then the man in the video paused and said,
Now, John, don't be doing that."
I was so confused and scared at the same time. I said,
How do you know my name?
He said,
"Don't worry, it's not just me. Everybody watching this can see you."
I then pressed my hands against my webcam. He said,
"Uncover your webcam, or I'll come over there and put you in this video."
I said,
You don't even know where I live.
He responded with,
"Everybody knows where you live. It's on the website."
As he said this, my name, address, phone number, IP address, and my picture showed up on the website. I took my hands off of the camera and watched the rest of the film in horror. Since that day, I haven't been on the deep web, and I've barely even been on my phone or computer lately in horror. The only advice I have for you is be careful on the deep web. It can really cost you.
Number 2.
In 2014, after hearing all of the horror stories, I wanted to check it out myself. In a way, I kind of expected nothing other than scam sites for assassins, people requesting CP, and some underground markets. However, I prepared for the worst, and frankly, I was more worried about getting in trouble by authorities rather than having my mind bleached for the near future. Even after 2 to 3 hours of procrastination, nothing prepared me for what I saw. It was during the middle of the day when I began my search. Of course, there's no deep web Google or anything, but rather a wiki with a lot of links. The links are different than the links you may know of. These links have no way of knowing what lays behind it, just numbers and .onion at the end. Of course, unless previously defined and listed on the wiki page. It was boring at first, a lot of dead sites. More than expected, there were eBay-style markets for weapons, military grade mind you, services, and of course drugs. I came across a chat room where I saw a darker side of people I never thought was possible. So many people that were mentally ill, threatening others, requesting CP. It was truly disgusting. Think of the people who walk the dark streets of a bad neighborhood with anything they desired at their fingertips. 2 hours later, I came across one site that ended my little adventure in the wastes of human consciousness. A cult site, perhaps, with little info other than an email address and some religious mumbo-jumbo. However, there was a video embedded in the site's homepage. Like a naive child, I clicked it without a care in the world. The video was shot with a crappy video camera. Perhaps it was shot in the early, mid-2000s. It was a man with a mask and a knife. As quickly as that scene showed, another presented itself. He was cutting something in a similar fashion to a butcher shop. It was then and there that I realized the body was bipedal and it didn't have any fur. It was a human being. He was cutting the legs at the buttocks level. A new scene shows the decapitation of the head. Then another shot of the man with the mask, followed by a picture of a church with a weird symbol. This was a cult recruiting website. It was followed by more bodies being cut up and hung in ways more gruesome than you may expect. Shortly after, I turned my computer off, and I stayed off it for quite some time. This was my first and last visit to the deep web. I have never contemplated going back since.
Number 1.
Let me start off by saying that I absolutely do not recommend visiting the deep web. Had my utterly fucking stupid 13-year-old self known this, I would never have gone on myself. Nothing good will ever come of it. So just learn from my mistakes and don't do it. That out of the way, I was in the 7th grade. It was the day before winter break began, and I'd been left home alone. I sat in my room at my desk, which was facing a window. I was playing games on my laptop when I remembered having a Skype group call and something called Tor came up. Being the stupid idiot I was, I downloaded it as soon as it came to mind. A few minutes and a few links later, I found myself at the hidden wiki. There were so many links, and I didn't even understand half the things that were being described. For everyone's own sake, including my own, I won't mention the things I saw. If you're at all familiar with the deep web, you should have a pretty good idea what a reckless child can stumble upon. But one such thing will haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm directly responsible for the death of another person, in some regard at least. I didn't pay for it, mind you, but I was a part of the audience that was apparently enough to encourage this sick fuck killer. It was a little girl. She couldn't have been much older than 9, if that. She was tied to a chair, her mouth duct taped. She was crying and had the most horrified expression I had ever seen on a person. A man walked in and started repeatedly punching her in the face with brass knuckles. He cut at her a bit too, her wrists, her forehead, her chest, stomach, all of it. Several minutes later, he walked out. She sat there, bleeding, crying, clearly wishing it would just end. He walked back in, carrying a box. He dropped it and walked out. Out of the box came the biggest fucking rattlesnake I'd ever seen. It rattled and rattled, hissing at her and slowly slithering closer and closer. I could hear her muffled screams as it sank its fangs into her leg. I couldn't take it anymore. I closed the browser, deleted Tor, and I never looked back. The tale ends there, and as far as I know, there's no one out there hunting me down looking to kill me right now, thank the Lord. But please heed my words, and don't ever go on the deep web, no matter how cool it sounds. There's nothing but trouble there.